double for you know the ratio. That's one.
Might be during the
Okay, welcome everybody. The 8th of August meeting, council meeting. We're reminded that the meeting has been recorded, and are we ready to do that?
Yeah.
Ready to go.
It's ready to.
Okay, so I'd just like to start Stelly into a current to start the meeting.
Ko hihiri, ko rārama, ko o te whakaro, ko o te tangata, ko o te aroha, te ko e hiri nei I ā tātou, hauri ora ki ā tātou, hui e tai ki e. May clarity be yours, may understanding be yours through reflection, through personal endeavour, through respect, the virtue that binds us as one, well-being to us all, bind us all together.
Thank you. Okay, let's start. Is there any apologies? Apologies, Lynn is just absent for 10 or 15 minutes and will join the meeting shortly. Okay, I'd like to welcome people to the public forum. I'll start off with Bruce Effort. Bruce, would you like to come forward to the speaker at the front here, please? Welcome. And before you start, we've got 5 minutes and I'll give you a bit of a warning to get to the
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bruce Effort. I lease the Papu camp, and I've been down there for over 20 years in small businesses and seen quite a lot. I think at the moment, what's happening on the Papu Corridor Road is disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. It's one of the main roads over the East Coast. It used to be the state highway before 35A was put up. They've got Corrigan on the signpost on the main road. It's got Corrigan over in a picture, you know, an arrow going over the Epping Corrigan. You go around the corner, it's got road closed ahead. It's got Open, the names of the places. Then you go a bit further and right on the corner going up. They put a brand new sign there saying Corrigan 28 Ks. They've got Metal Road famous in it. Nothing more about the road closed until you get up to the Square Carry. When you get up to the Square Carry, it's the first place after that sign that says road closed. When you get up to the Square Carry, the doctor got a sign put there, the track to the Square Carry is closed. And on the bridge, it's got a sign there that says road closed. But these people have driven all that way to get there. I have been to the roading engineer. It took me a couple of emails, a couple of phone calls, and I finally had to stand down here and in front of the desk to finally get to talk to one of them. And I talked to him and I said, why isn't it down the bottom? He said, we're not able to put it down. We've got to leave the road open and everything. There's no reason why they can't put it at the end of the task here where the footer goes, road closed ahead. The local people know, they just go through. I see in the council news that the council said there's been 2 staff members assaulted or swore over that. But they've got to realise that people are so frustrated they can't get to the top that the poor buggers on the bottom are the ones that are going to get it because of frustration. Now, anyway, what I suggested to this person that they put a road close sign down at the Water Gardens, that they put a thing over the Corrigan sign so people know that the road to Corrigan is closed. Not go and put a brand new sign up telling them what the road's like, because they have a closed sign. And all this comes down to management. The management at the top ignore everyone. And one of you jokers, I'd like to see us go and bring up and try and talk to one of the departments and use a false name, not a name that you know. All you do is you get put through to an answer phone. They don't, they ask you what you want to talk about, so you tell them, then you don't hear from them again. And then you try again. I've been trying to get hold of the mayor, talk to the mayor for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Twice now, and they put me off to someone else. I'm still waiting for replies. But anyway, getting back to the Corrigan Road, I'm getting frustrated because at the camp I'm getting the tourists that are coming along the coast road. They see the Corrigan sign. Google Maps says the Corrigan Road is open, and they're going all the way up there, and then having to get turned around and come back. And they come back to the camping ground and ask, "What do we do?" And I said, "Well, it's the council. The council don't want to tell anyone anything. It's all kept hush." And they get all frustrated and they say, "Oh, maybe this we get back look." And so we're missing out on our tourist trade, one of our good trades on the Coromandel. That's what we get. I mean, I'm going to put this back.
Got a minute left, Bruce.
There you go. The other one I want to bring up while I'm here is your finance department. 2 years ago, I've been leasing that camp for 12 years, and 2 years or 13 years nearly now. I've had 2 incidents where I've missed a payment, and when you do internet banking, you've got to push the last button. I forgot to push the last button twice there. It's taken 7 months for them to pick it up. And I've asked for a statement to make sure that I've paid it. You don't get it. So I just think that some of our departments need to be looked at the top. Our rubbish bin in Tapu, outside the hotel, been taken away. Waikawa down the boat ramp, they've taken it away. People come into the camp and they want to throw their rubbish in my camp rubbish bin. I said, no, council policy, throw it out the window. Throw it over the side out in the water. It's not up to me to get rid of council rubbish, but they take the rubbish bins away. Why? No one will tell us why they've taken them away. And they've got 2 down on the reserve. The other one is up the Tapu Creek Road, the old quarry. There's a big slip there. The contractors are carrying that all the way over to Natia, and it's all good rotten rock. So that'll be going over there and used for farmers' races. Whereas down on the reserve, on Cemetery Point, there's great big holes that need filling. And they've got the old quarry there, they could be putting it in. No, they're carting it away over to Corrigan, over to Natia. Why are they doing these things?
I don't know, Bruce, but your time is up. You don't like to criticise staff for doing their job, so we'll just look into your problem. So we understand what you're saying, and we'll follow them through. But staff are out there trying to do their best. So.
Well, how come they don't answer?
Well,
how come we can't speak to the mayor?
Yeah, can't debate that now, but we've heard what you're saying and we've noted it, and we'll see if we can come back with things.
What you've got to realise is that you have voted in here to represent the people, but the people can't even have a say. They're not even able to talk to anyone. For me to have to come into here to talk here to try and get the truth to anyone, I think is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Thank you.
And so I feel that, it needs to be looked into. We wouldn't have these problems if.
Yeah, Bruce, we hear you. We hear you. We understand what you're saying. We've noted it. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody hold a second, Bruce? Any questions for Bruce before we go? Any questions? Thank you, Bruce. We'll pick you up. Okay. Okay, now I'd like to ask Tracy and Erin if they'd like to come forward.
We don't have any complaints.
No. It's all right, it's all part of the job, so trying to make people happy.
It's 10 minutes.
10 minutes, so screen Waikato is it? Okay.
Green, just
One is screen, so you've got 10 minutes and you can lighten us and we're ready to hear. Where you go?
Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to share it. Oh, it's there on Friday.
And
This is a question. Right, Tēnā koutou, and thanks for having us here today. Before I get started, I'd like to introduce our team. Tracy Hampton is our film office coordinator, and I'm myself. I'm Erin, and I look after showcases and attractions. And Jack Barry, who cannot be here with us today, looks after talent and sector development. Together we share a wealth of knowledge, and we're passionate about expanding the screen industry in the Waikato region. We're supported by an amazing advisory board, as you can see along the bottom, who each bring their own expertise to support and cultivate our organisation. Toby Adams asked me to put in his apologies as he would have liked to have been here this morning, but to endorse our organisation, but unfortunately he had legal commitment. Our collective vision for the Waikato is for it to reach its full potential, and we believe by supporting the screen industry, it will enhance our region economically, creatively and culturally. We'll start by sharing a snapshot of some of the films shot in New Zealand. The international film industry spent about 3.3 billion in New Zealand. Auckland boasts an annual income of 1.5 billion, and the Waikato receives approximately 170 of last count. This is only 5% of the overall sum, which is much less than we're supposed to get if we take into consideration the GDP. We have been missing out a lot until now. With the support of the majority of local councils over the past year and the recent partnership with the Waikato Regional Council, our region is in the process of change. But let's start by taking a quick look at the impact of the film.
Within the film industry, any medium to large production ranges from around 20 million to 100 million upwards. The key production and crew roles make up only 33% of that budget, with 67% being on what they call the below the line. This includes construction, rentals, accommodation, hospitality, transportation, and the list goes on. These are a few of the businesses impacted from the film. Gaming is another industry sector that crosses over to the film industry, with most games initially needing filming as part of their production process. Of course, we have a prime example of tourism, of how an international film created worldwide attention with Lord of the Rings, which is ongoing. With its ongoing success, it reports an annual regional income of 78 million directly attributing to Hobbiton. The screen sector has a collective workforce of over 17,400 people, which is more than the fishing industry. It offers work opportunities not only to professionals, but offers numerous career paths to our youth or untrained film enthusiasts, and for the businesses that grow from having a thriving screen industry. The positive financial impact of producing a film directly benefits to our communities.
Here's an example of what some of the New Zealand films have spent to date. Disney reported to the New Zealand Film Commission they spent just under 10 million on accommodation alone for Milan, and Power of the Dogs had 13,500 nights of accommodation. Each crew member gets a daily spend for food and personal use, which they do spend locally. Retail and trade reaches far and wide, and examples like Milan again has had over 2,000 members, and Sweet Tooth used 1,400. And The Gone is a perfect example of the 6-part miniseries that's just been filmed in Te Aroha, reported a local spend of $1 million over a 7-week period with that very small production. They also provided full set work to unexperienced Waikato locals.
So Waikato Screen, what are we? Waikato Screen New Zealand is the official regional film office and to our region, a non-profit organisation specialising in the screen sector, funded by a majority of territorial authorities, Waikato Regional Council, Well Trust, and are well supported by industry stakeholders and guilds. We play an integral role in attracting productions to our regions and work closely with key stakeholders to ensure they have the best experience while working here. We work with national collectives called RFONs, Regional Film Offices New Zealand, together by having a collaborative and coordinated approach to the screen sector. Both Waikato Screen now has a seat at the table with the New Zealand Film Commission, who are key attracting and promoting film to our country. We intend to become one of the major film offices in New Zealand.
And just looking at that actual filming was under the Waikato Screen for Southern Waiara. And this is a regular local one that we've seen it. And the other one was a Amazon production. Don't know if it was Amazon or Amazon. So let's look exactly what we do. We have three main focuses. We showcase our unique locations targeting the international film market to encourage productions to be filmed in our region and country to reap economic rewards. By working with our own New Zealand industry directors and producers, that ensures New Zealand's stories, culture and history is shared and kept alive. Number two, we facilitate productions working with councils, stakeholders, local iwi, and we connect them to our local businesses, infrastructure, cast and crew. It is really easy to inadvertently break laws or offend someone if you don't know the standard practices, cultural laws, when there's no one to guide you. With so many councils and with varying permitting processes, filming can be hard to navigate, and we help connect and manage these relationships. In the future, we look at streamlining processes to make the Waikato a film-friendly region. Number three, we provide career opportunities within the screen sector through our talent and sector development. A lot of these film productions do come down and they bring people from out of town. We want to start connecting to our locals. We've started to map our local crew and network our people, and we're providing upskilling. We'll be providing training, upskilling workshops with a focus of empowering our rangatahi and strengthen our Waikato-based professionals. We're creating a data system for industry professionals to employ opportunities. We're creating an ecosystem that will develop and nurture the screen sector. So what's been happening in the Waikato? For over 2 years, while advocating to have a film office, I've spoken about a film which I couldn't talk about, and that was Avatar: Ways of Water. We helped with multiple boat launchings, water safety, multiple marine hospitality, business connections, and this was all in your area. This is an example of the calibre of the productions we've been servicing.
And recently we worked with New Zealand co-production with Island the Gone, with a fantastic script, a great cast and of course locations. This production was filmed in and around Te Haraha, benefiting the Matamata Piako and Taureki districts. With its unique New Zealand storyline, intriguing setting and seamless incorporation of the reo, it was received with rave reviews around New Zealand. The Gone put our region on the podium with Waikato Screen, having interviews with 7 Sharp, the Breeze Radio staff and the Waikato Times and multiple social media platforms, giving us the opportunity to promote our region as a stunning film location. Did you $250,000? You saying that everyone must see.
Good, sorry. I just realised I've got the wrong screen up there, guys. There's need to have a big picture of Avatar, have the Gone, and sorry, wrong one. Yeah, whoops. Okay. So yeah, those who haven't seen it, it's a really good watch, the Gone. We've also yes, great script. So we worked on also Netflix week too, International Emmy Award winning short series Ruromi. We've just finished with a major confidential international drama series that had a crew of 300 that spent 150k per night on accommodation and hospitality alone in TC and another area. Some of you may have heard rumours. And we've got another large international feature film in the pipeline. Other inquiries included documentaries like The Volcano Rescue from Whakaari, which I also recommend as an unbelievable documentary and great watch, reality series, travel programs, numerous commercials, FIFA coverage assistance, and more, lots more. We've created great relationships with our local, with our location managers, and we've been told a number of times by Waikato Screen in the short time we've been operating is building a fantastic reputation in the industry. So what do we ask from the TCDC? You're the last council to contribute funding to Waikato Screen. and the TCDC is a significant area for locations. We've asked to keep our funding to a minimum, and our model has been formulated to create a fair contribution from a range of stakeholders in our region. Our ask from the TCDC is $10,803 annually over the next 2 years. We ask you to join the Joint Services Agreement, which is currently includes 4 councils and it keeps our process and target aligned. We also ask you to reflect on what we delivered and include us in your long-term planning. We need your support to help us through the piece of the pie, to grow a greater percentage of what is currently our national screen spend. If we achieve the estimated GPT, it could be an inject annually an extra 100 million into our regional economy. We ask you to join the remainder of the Waikato territorial authorities to support Waikato Screen, and we want our mighty Waikato to be known as heart of screen productions and thrive.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Erin and Tracy? Yes.
If a Hollywood director had a script that demanded, for instance, a beach with hot water coming out of it, how would that director find out that we've got exactly that?
So they contact the New Zealand Film Commission, and the Film Commission, we have a meeting once every 4 weeks, and we're with all the regional film officers in New Zealand, and they go, hey guys, look at this script. Very confidential, don't tell anyone, but these are the locations that are key and hot. They could be, for example, usually it's emulating different places of the area, not a hot water beach. It's usually, we want a Napa Valley vineyard. We want a Dutch dike. So can you please do that? So we are in the process of building an image library, and we're going around to each of the councils and then getting our own location managers to take photos, and we provide them with what we believe they might like. It's us and every other film office is going to do the same thing, and then they have that to choose from. So without the intervention of the New Zealand Film Office, like I think a lot of the regional councils go, oh, we have been managing this ourselves, but they don't get those pictures at international films.
Thank you.
What's quite good too now is the responsibilities to those productions coming in on their sustainability, environmental impact, and their responsibilities are really advanced what they bring to a community, what they're allowed to do, but also there's a lot of consideration to ensure protection of land and being returned, or how it's been, things like drones and things like that, making sure that everything's being done effectively and with respect to people's space.
Thank you. Any other questions for these 2 wonderful ladies bragging things? Well, thank you very much, and we hear your call, and we'll obviously discuss it at the right time. So, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, 1.3 items not on the agenda. Oh,
See,
yeah.
this week was
Second up, please. Robin, thank you. All in favour? Against? Mary.
You're talking about items not on the agenda.
Yeah.
I was wondering about this flux we had from people upset about the rubbish collection. We discussed that at any stage.
Yeah, but I suggest we discuss that in the waste management workshop.
Okay, that's good. No, I'm just another point you've come through this just as I'm sitting here.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Any other items not on the agenda? Okay. Conflicts of interest? Any conflicts of interest? No, none. Okay. Minutes for confirmation. So, I now take the chair. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. That me.
Yeah.
You're going again.
And you're back.
Hey, it's coming, guys. Yeah, very low chair. Very low.
And thank you, Terry.
Just you snuck in a meeting.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, are we having the person going to address us who sent us the email about the electoral decisions on transferable vote, etc.?
It's pretty clear.
No, not the other person.
Yeah, Mr. Platt put his apologies on.
I guess I printed it out and read it. It's very interesting.
As part of the forum. Thank you. So we're at item. We've done 1.3, 1.4.
Yeah.
Thank you. 1.5 minutes for confirmation. So could I get the mover and a seconder, please, to receive the minutes? Thank you. Seconder. Kelly, all those in favour?
Aye.
We are going to do the same for Thames Coromandel Council, item 3. Confirm TCDC minutes for the meeting held 20th of June. 27th of June, sorry. Mover and seconder, please. Martin and seconder Terry, thank you. All those in favour? Aye. You.
We we're going to discuss the items that are in those minutes. Then we receive them.
So the council minutes or
The nomination, you'll get the from the committee board minutes for the 1st of August. It's just a matter.
we're doing that separately, so these are coming up.
Okay, that's great.
So we've got item 6, which is the Thames Community Board, sorry.
Apologies. We, through the chair, can we please do from the community minutes?
Sorry, that's, I've missed that part of the page. So we've done those ones. We're now on to Whangamata Community Board for 20th of June, and then we're going to do Whangamata Community Board 1st of August separately. Now the 20th of June one was there because it missed the council meeting, last council meeting. So we'll deal with that one first, and then we'll do the 1st of August Whangamata separately. So I'm going to move on a second, please, for Whangamata Community Board for the 20th of June.
Happy to move.
Terry and Gary, all those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. So Whangamata Community Board for 1st of August. Can I get a mover and a seconder to receive it, please?
Yeah, happy to move. Likewise.
Terry and Gary. Okay, any discussion on this motion?
Like just, yes, I would just like to address a small point there, like any question. Now, I don't want to ruffle the on the car council speeds here, so I hear it as well. This is regarding Lindsay Road and the business case that the community board wants to I think it's just struggling for some dealing with people not paying for your payment, but here we go. Wants to put $10,500 towards a business case for. I just think it's important to remind the Whangamata councillors and those councillors that are at this table that it's actually a strip of land. It's not Whangamata Community Board land. As such, all our ratepayers have an interest in that piece of land. Look at selling it. In the year's last terms, had a valuation of about $1 million. It's not insignificant. So I think for the Whangamata Community Board, get a business plan or business case for that particular piece of road that needs to be sort of development of the council table as to whether that's what council requires or not. And I just say this, Mercury Bay have actually gone a long way with purchasing land over there out of their own funds. Coromandel's done the same thing up in Coromandel. It's a purchase that we built a student organisation up on. That was done by our local ratepayers. This is district land. It's valuable to us. So you just need to just be careful, councillors from there, as to what expectations you're building up and as whether that land is even available you to utilise.
Well,
I'll see my best. Thank you.
which can I just add here?
Yeah,
I involved survivors of the people who had the land taken off them. And it needs to be offered back to them if we're going to go that track. And I can tell you they are supportive of what's being proposed on 101 Lindsay Road. So I can get you all the information you need.
if that's the area, and I've heard that up before, then that is fine. It needs to be on. That is the case. Then they be free to purchase it from council and then gift it to whatever you want. That was the way we did it.
Yeah, if I could just comment on it.
So just before we do, thank you, councillor Morrissey. I wasn't part of the previous council, but I'm aware that there's a lot of back history and a lot of community engagement in this. It's a really important part of the community discussion. Terry probably can fill us in on some of the background.
So there was a motion put before council that said this land had to make some decisions around for the community for a date, and that's December 2023. This is the process that we've been asked to follow. We've done the feasibility study that's funded to do, and we've been asked to do a business case to support that to come before council. So we're following the process to do this. So we're just going through the motions to be able to address that motion that's on the book. So that's what we're following.
And I appreciate that, Terry, I really do. So long as you do have at the back of your mind that in this case you also include the possible purchase of that land from the District Council.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I follow that.
It is district land, land in long and short of it. It was paid for by every ratepayer in this district.
It was taken under the Act for a school.
Sorry, without going into the background of it, yeah, I'm not even sure that's correct, Gary, but it is district land paid for by every ratepayer. It's district as such. Every ratepayer has an interest in it.
I think Joe will
And
follow
it
the
is-
process.
It is not any different to Whitianga purchasing the land they have in Monk Street. Coromandel purchasing the land they did in Pound Street, and then putting another organisation onto it.
So my understanding is that previous council made a decision to defer the sale of that because it was proposed that it be sold on the open market, correct, for $3 million or thereabouts, and that was deferred to allow the community groups to do a feasibility study and provide a business case, which is what they were asked to do. And once though the feasibility study and the business case were done, then council would be brought back to council, and council would have an opportunity to consider those. And
Sorry,
so that's the process that's going through at the moment, and I'm not seeing any issues with that. The decision making of council will happen once those processes are followed, and I'm not quite sure what the timeline is on that.
That's, I was just about to ask what timeline is because it's August already, and I believe the resolution that we made about the land was that we were to be presented with the business case for feasibility study before 30th of December 2023.
Yes.
That rings a bell.
So I'm.
Veros are doing that business case to support the feasibility case, and that's talking about September meeting or something like that, that they're going to present that to the council.
I'll ask Aileen.
And so our understanding is that there is a report on this with preparing it, it'll come back and it'll deal with all of those issues and the options, and it will be before the date in December.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and reiterate it just so that it's in everybody's mind that there is an issue with that land, and we look at this case, see what we get.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion on that? All right, so we'll put the motion, all those in.
Yeah.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Okay. Thames Community Board recommendations, item 6. Can I get a move on a seconder, please, for this? Sorry. Second. Kelly and Martin, thank you. This is for the Thames Community Board recommendations, mainly to do with license to occupy. Any discussion? All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Coromandel Community Board recommendations. Am I going to move in a second?
I'll move that.
Second to Robin. Thank you. All those in favour? Aye. And TCDC Risk and Assurance Committee recommendations, which is the Koha policy from 1st of July 2023. Can I move in a second?
Mercury Bay, did you get Mercury Bay?
That's Mercury Bay.
Did I see Mercury Bay come?
Yeah. Page 32.
Are they on there?
Sorry.
Through the chair, the dismissed recommendations.
No recommendations, right?
Okay.
So we include today in release.
Through the chair, we included us in receiving minutes.
Yeah,
Oh,
but there were no recommendations.
okay.
Okay, thank you. So Risk and Assurance Committee recommendations. Can I get them over a second? Martin and Terry, thank you. Which is to do with the Koha policy and delegated authority manager make minor amendments to finalise the Koha policy. No further discussion on that.
Just one point. Sorry, Ari, I should have emailed you. On page 48, I think I stepped out of the meeting, but I'm in the present tense. It says, so council's going to step out of the meeting, I should be stepped out. Very defensive. I'm good with non-public.
That's just a minutes amendment. Isn't it?
Sorry. Thank you, sorry.
So all those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, item 2.1. What I'd like to do on this is receive the report. Please, can I move in a second and receive the report, Ellie and John? Thank you. And now we are going to be looking at making a decision about either retaining first past the post, changing to STV, or undertaking a poll of electors. And we've got Ben, Rosa and Stacey sitting with us. So what I might do is hand over to you, Ben and Stacey, and just give us a little bit of an update on what's in front of us. Then we'll see what councillors questions the councillors.
Kia ora, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Thank you for the introduction. We'll hand over to Ben and he can explain.
Absolutely. Okay, so the report that you have in front of you is for council to identify the preferred electoral system to be used for the next triennial election, that's in 2025, and for council to seek direction or to seek council's direction in relation to consulting ahead of the decision on whether or not to introduce Māori wards. So there's the summary here. The decision on the electoral system, there are really three options. Council needs to either retain first past the post, FPP, or introduce STV, single transferable voting, or council could choose to hold a poll of electors on that decision. Now, council also needs to decide, not today, but by the 23rd of November, and I understand 31st of October meeting has been set aside for that. That's on whether or not to introduce Māori representation. It's a decision required in principle, so yes or no. If council does choose to introduce one or more Māori wards, then a representation review will be required. If council doesn't introduce Māori representation, then the next representation review won't be required until after the upcoming triennial election, so that will be in 2027. So the suggested resolutions we have here, either council retains first past the post, they change to single transferable voting, or they undertake a poll of electors on the matter, and also that council undertakes discussion with iwi Māori both at the governance and operational level, to understand their views and preferences in relation to a Māori ward.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move from the chair that we retain first past the post. And I'm going to ask for a second, I think, then open that up for debate. So have I got a seconder for that? John, thank you. And what we'll do then is we'll move past that one first, and then the discussion around asking staff to undertake discussions with iwi around Māori wards. We'll do that separately, please. So we've got a move and a seconder for first past the post. Can I get discussion around that, please?
Yes, so I just,
Terry, before you do that, were you seconding?
I was seconding,
You were seconding. All right, thank you. So open for discussion. We've got Terry.
thank you for coming to talk about this. I've been to the electorate and talked to some of my electorate, not everybody, obviously. And there's a strong request to stay with FPP. So I'm just putting it out there that they are telling me that that's where they want to be. So I'm just letting you know that's the feeling from our electorate.
Thank you, Terry. Any further discussion?
So at the LGNZ conference here, I believe there was some talk around LGNZ potentially endorsing STB going forward. Is anyone here who went to the conference like to or able to talk briefly about that?
I think certainly as part of the Future for Local Government document, there is a proposal that is discussion for all councils to have. Moving forward, it wasn't proposed, and correct me if I'm wrong for the others, it wasn't proposed that individual councils address that now as part of the wider thing, but certainly going forward, proposing that alternative systems are investigated. But for now, it's up to the individual councils to make a decision, and we're required to make that decision today.
Can I then ask a follow-up question to that of our guests online there? So with STV, is it generally true that it is that the advantages of it are fully realised when you have, say you might have for our community boards, we have 4 elected members on each community board, and STV is more effective when you've got a larger number of candidates and a large, for instance, number of positions, rather than a position where there's just, one person elected, because STV essentially would make no difference for a single position.
Yeah, that is right. With STV, the advantages are certainly more pronounced if you end up with proportional representation, which is easier to achieve with a larger number of elected members in a larger, with a larger number of electors.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, I just the reason I'm very supportive of this for threefold. Firstly, there's the cost associated with moving into STB. Secondly, it's challenging enough to educate people on rubbish bins, let alone trying to educate people on single transferable voting. And thirdly, along with what Terry was saying, I'm not hearing people agitating in the community for a change at this point in time. So that would be the basis for my decision.
I've had some years looking at this, and I'm completely sold on STV. Anyone who's been stay on, it's sold on it. We've got to move on and go with the times. I just think we need to be a little bit more, and I just think it's the old first past the post needs to be reconsidered. I've been here looking at this, so I'm more than comfortable. There's a way to go, and it's making it.
Can I just ask you if any councillors here were councillors at the time when this council had STV? Gary, with you?
No. Okay, I was chair of a committee that looked at the pros and cons of STV and just cast a post. And I know that's a number of years ago and then things have moved on, but in my opinion, first past the post was a clear winner back then. for a number of reasons. Peter's highlighted. The number of candidates just doesn't mean there's not towards STV, when you only got 3 or 4 people standing for one position. It's a dumb thing. So the first past the post rule there, to me, first past the post.
So we had it for 2 terms, am I right?
STV for 2 days.
STV for 2 terms and then reverted back. So unless there's any further discussion, oh, sorry, Mark.
Yeah, just to talk to John's point there, I mean, in situations, for example, Coromandel, Coalmore, Norwood, then going to STV essentially makes no difference for that ward, but it has the potential to make a difference for other wards. So just simply to say, sorry, and not being critical, but simply to say that there's no point for it when you've got a limited number of positions and candidates.
Yeah. Quite limited. I wasn't just referring to the Coromandel Coal. I was actually looking at every, yeah, we candidates throughout, but there's no huge understanding for these positions. Community for you only just managed to get enough people to stand last time. A couple of extra. But we are not talking about a huge number of candidates in any of our positions. We even come close about the XTP.
This discussion will happen again as part of future for local government, as part of representation and review. So the feeling that I'm getting with talking to elected members and the community is that we stick with what we've got now. It's less complicated, it's less costly, but this discussion will happen again.
And I was involved in a Zoom meeting yesterday, councillors from across the country. And what this I raised this as an issue for representation because one of the issues that was raised was that actually there's very low representation of women on council in general across the country and also Māori. And the discussion that we had was quite good, and the conclusion that we sort of all came to, and it was backed up by some research that one of the councillors has sent me, and I haven't fully read through all of it yet, is that the single transferable voting doesn't increase representation of the people who are not currently represented at council. And so I think that would be a major driver if we wanted to change how we did things, but that doesn't seem to be the case at the moment. And when it is the case, we should have this conversation again.
Can I request then that you hang on to that information because that's yeah, that will be quite. So based on that, unless there's any further discussion, I'll put the motion and then we'll move to the second part of this resolution. So all those in favour? Those against? So 2. We record. Thank you. And I appreciate your input in this discussion. It is important. Thank you. Okay, so item 3 on this, the 2.1 is undertakes discussion with iwi Māori both at government and operational level to understand the views and preferences in relation to the Māori ward. So the council is required by 23rd of November to make a decision about whether we include Māori wards, and this resolution from a council point of view asks staff to undertake those discussions at staff level and governance level with iwi because I personally don't feel comfortable to make this decision as a council without having discussed with iwi. So that is the essence of what we're being asked to do. What I'll do is I'll get a mover and a seconder, or I'll move the motion and I'll get a seconder for that. Seconder, Delhi?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll open this for discussion, please. So I'll start with Delhi and then Martin.
Yeah, I think, knowing how a lot of our iwi representatives, and often it's the same people doing everything and dealing with Maituri and all the rest of it. I'm pro Māori boards, I'm put that out there to start with, but I think we need to know if they feel that they've got people in the capability this time round, or whether or not iwi would like to park that until they feel that they've got greater capability for representation. I think it's definitely their steer, and I think it's a good idea to have to engage with a little bit of guidance and frank with the different elected representatives and see how they feel. I think it's important that they realise that we want to hear their voice around that, because it's their thing as it comes to fruition.
Thank you, Delly. Martin?
So I'd just like a little bit of clarity, saying undertakes discussion with iwi Māori both at governance and operational level, just to, I think council elected members and staff should be involved in that. So I just wanted to make sure that, because at the moment that could read to just say, it's only governance and operational with iwi. But I've clarified with Ariana before, but I think I'd like to see that written in that resolution, make it clearer.
So the intention is that staff and elected members go and do some talking.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't reflect that, then yes, happy to undertake.
And is it, sorry, and also just as a follow-up that, and I think we also just need to, the date up above, the 19th of September for the previous point, the date for the decision around Māori water is November. So would it be useful to put something in that resolution number 3 to give some guidelines to say discussions to be had by such and such a date, and those discussions coming back to a council meeting, because I'm really mindful that it's a relatively short timeframe and I don't want to see it slip.
It can't slip because we've got a deadline that the decision has to be made by. And of course, if you work backwards, then there's an agenda deadline. And so it is, you're quite right, it's actually quite a time.
Yeah.
It's in the report. 23rd November is in the report. So it's clearly identified. Is there a need to have it in the resolution?
Does through the chair, it does.
As long as we've got understanding it's governance and operation.
So it's just, I
I hear what you're saying, Martin, so yeah.
just through the chair, I got my wife to have a reading of point 3, and she pointed out about the dates and also pointed out about the governance and operations. She didn't understand that meant we add TCBC governance operation. So
Yeah, would governing body work
Yep.
and management?
The council governance and operation.
Quite comfortable for them.
I think.
Terry?
Yeah, I hear what Martin's saying. I don't think we're frustrated. I think this is really important, this discussion. And as Aileen said, it's tight for a time frame, really, when you start to negotiate. My discussions around this is that they've got this Māori Trust Board with the 11 decisions to be made through Parliament and all that. There's a lot going on and they'll disband and they'll become their own entities. So how we engage with them will be interesting. I'd say now's a good time, really, when they're all one, to go out and discuss it. And there's others outside we need to talk to as well. So we're asking us to go into our own areas and discuss this as a group. How are we going to do this? This is what I don't understand.
So the question that you're asking is this going to be complicated and tricky process? The answer is always going to be yes. And I think we just need to be guided on multiple levels too.
Because one of the things I got is when we talk to iwi, especially the ones in areas that we talk about, they ask about what our job is. So they need to understand what this job is as well, what they're doing. And it is quite difficult to explain to them. And so you've got big agendas to talk through and a lot of process, how that engages with what they're trying to do. So it's going to be a discussion.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah. Just if we wanted clarity in the resolution, I think I heard up here that Māori ward or Māori wards. So we need to say their preference in relation to Māori wards. You know, it's just
terms of singular or plural.
Yeah, well, it's I mean, at the moment to a Māori ward, so it could be saying, well, that's
So there is
3. We could be predetermining what something might need to look like.
There's some regulatory guidance around that, I think. So maybe Ben and Tracy, can you recap? I mean, we have had this discussion before with Dale, but can you just recap on that? And the second thing is, okay, thank you. The second thing is the question that's come up, we might as well tackle this at the same time, is the number of councillors that we would end up with under the current numbers. At the moment, we've got 9 councillors. If on the 23rd of November, this council made a decision to include Maori Board awards, what does that do to the number of councillors that we have? Can you give us some guidance on that?
Yeah, the decision required by 23 November is to introduce one or more Māori wards. Whether you end up with one or more will have to depend on how many councillors council chooses to go with when the representation review occurs. If 9 councillors are retained, then there will only be one Māori ward councillor, in which case that councillor would be elected district-wide. So it would be one ward.
So, sorry, just to clarify, for everyone's purposes, if we had 9 councillors, one of those councillors would be Maori Wood councillors, and 8 councillors would be from the remaining 4
Yeah, elected from general wards.
Which means we would be reducing the number of councillors that we currently have by 1. Is that correct?
Yeah, the total number would remain as 9, but 8 elected from general wards and 1 elected from one Māori ward.
So under what circumstances would we go from 9 councillors to 10 councillors? So 9 plus 1 Maori councillor.
That would be a decision that council would make as part of the ensuing representation review. Part of that review would be to determine how many councillors council feels is appropriate, whether elected by wards or district-wide, whether community boards are retained, changed, altered, disestablished. Yeah.
We got Robin and then Terry, thank you.
So just in regards to resolution 3, you know, naturally, I would imagine that the information that we're ready to have the next discussion once we've all had our conversation needs to be sort of robust. And so I'm just sort of seeking clarity, I guess, to you about the nature of these conversations. So, I mean, we've all had ad hoc conversations with people that we know at various representatives, etc. But presumably what this resolution is after is not a whole bunch of ad hoc conversations had with people that we know. Or is this sort of more formal, let's sit down and have an agenda to talk about?
Yeah, okay, so we need to look through exactly what we need to do. One of the first pieces of feedback we had is we need to do some sort of sheet that outlines actually what does it mean, because there's a whole bunch of different ramifications that go into a multi-board, including who roles and, you know, being on one role and not being able to vote on the other role. So there are a whole bunch of ramifications. So we need to do that, and we're working on something at the moment. I think those conversations you have are important because you come to council with the views of the community. So there's no way those should stop. Those should continue. But we do need to roll out some sort of process. And Ben and I are meeting, in the coming months, we are meeting one-on-one on various when. But inevitably those meetings keep moving and sliding and so on. So it'd be nice to think we could do a full consultation plan, but the reality is we're not going to be able to based on dates and availabilities on both parts. So I think we will do our very best and put together something in the report that has an overview of the different views we're going to get, and it will end up being a qualitative judgment called by councillors. Is my view.
No, but thank you for that.
Yeah, mine was just clarification, really. So to get another councillor, we'd have to do that plus or minus 10% evaluation of numbers. Is that right?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
When to get another council, there's a formula to go through to get that, isn't there?
Yeah, there is a formula for the number of councillors elected from each ward, as well as a formula for the number of councillors electing from Māori wards or general wards. So each councillor can't represent more than 10% or less than 10% away from the average number of people represented by each councillor.
I got it, yep.
And it's also true, isn't it, that the initial decision about Māori ward is required by November this year, but we get until the end of August next year to get an initial proposal for the representation review. So we have actually got a year to work out how that might work.
Yeah, so 23rd November for the in-principle yes/no decision on whether to introduce Māori representation, and then that all of the details will be worked out in the representation review process. Initial proposal required no earlier than the 1st of March and no later than the 31st of August next year.
So you've essentially got that 9-month period. Once you've made that decision in principle by the 23rd of November, you've essentially got that 9-month period to work through the intricacies of how you may wish to introduce that, or how that Māori representation may look, and to formulate that initial proposal.
So essentially what we're faced with is on the 23rd of November, we need to make a decision about whether or not to introduce Māori wards. If we get to the 23rd of November and we make that decision without having spoken to Iwi, then I think we're in danger of making a decision about Iwi that being made without us having. I'm not comfortable with that personally. So what we're doing is we're asking staff to get the ball rolling and have those discussions, which will include staff and ourselves as representatives. So Kelly and then everyone.
So I appreciate your comments about ad hoc discussions, but I think it would be really good to have an information sheet, a standardised information sheet, so that if we do, have to have a cup of coffee with Joe Davis, for example, there is also a clear understanding around having another go at it in 2027. So that iwi understand, I don't want ad hoc discussions where iwi feel really pressured and go, oh gosh, we've got to make a decision now or else this is lost forever. But they understand fully that if they're not ready, if they don't feel that they've got the capability at the moment, that there's another go at this. That there's sort of a 4-year period where they can, put their hands up and just say, look, we just want to take a break. We're busy with our treaty settlements or whatever. Let's go again. So an information, just a 1-pager would be really, really good with a timeline on it. Yeah.
If I could just comment on 2 things. Firstly, the next council meeting date ahead of that is actually the 31st of October. So it might be the 31st of October. We need to consider it, which does condense that timeline. Totally agree about information sheet. I think it'd be very useful for you to carry and use it when you can. So we also need to actually, we heard the message loud and clear when we met Manaia, that we rock up, we talk about the things we want to talk about, and they're not necessarily the things that we want to talk about. So I think we need to respect that and not burden them with a whole load of stuff that they might not want to have meetings about. So we have to feel our way through that quite carefully.
Discussion. Okay, so I've already moved the motion. We have a seconder in Delhi. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Thank you. Hey. Here we go. Fine.
What about our guest?
Please. So sorry. I will, but was there anything else? Sorry, and I've moved that motion, but and we've decided. Is there anything else that you needed to add, or anything, Ben and Tracy, that we might have missed that you wanted to add?
Not unless there's anything.
No, I don't believe so. I think it's been covered. I don't have anything to add.
All right, well, thank you so much for helping us through that. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Same to
Same
you.
to you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you too.
Okay, 2.2, Council's vision and key priorities for 2020 long-term plan. Welcome, thanks. Okay, can I get a mover and a second to receive the report, please?
I'll move.
Delhi and, thank you. We'll hand it over to Kate and Leslie to, give us a bit of an update on where we're at.
So we were talking about our vision and key priorities, and by priorities, just a reminder, we're talking about community outcomes as set out in by the Local Government Act. Really important as they inform development, so they'll be in our next LTP, which is due for adoption on July 2024. But they're important because they will inform the development of our activity groupings, our policy and strategy reviews, any of that work in our work program as we develop the long-term plan and beyond. So we have had a number of workshops around strategic direction, strategic priorities, to list it in the report. And then we held a workshop on the 18th of July, where we discussed and tried to put some words around reviewing a vision statement for the district and 4 key priorities. We didn't quite land that vision statement, so we did have a little bit of discussion on that. There was discussion around having the versus our, so our Coromandel the place to live, or the Coromandel work and play, or a couple of suggestions, yes. So that's in resolution 2, there's a either or there. And the priority statement around sustainable services and infrastructure, as staff, we're wondering about tweaking that slightly to district with sustainable services and infrastructure, which is in resolution 3, the either or there for 3D or 3D. And that's, Lisa, did you think into that?
Yes, can we add? I've been reflecting on it. There's one word I think perhaps within, because it's quite important to our district. We just take the B one, Coromandel live, work, play and visit. I just think that we want people to come here. That was a suggestion. That was.
Yeah, through the chair, it's up for debate what the exact words are, but it's all in your hands. So we've given you our resolution, our recommended resolutions, and about time to move forward. So I'm open to be changed as we decide.
So the proposal from Gary is that we add, first of all, we've got to decide whether on item 2, whether it's A or B. And the proposal is that we add the word visit. I guess it could apply to either of them, yeah. So can I just get some feeling on whether to add the word visit or leave things the way they are? Go Martin and Rebecca.
There is a bit of a mantra and things like this about working in 3s. And I think once you introduce a 4th, for me, I mean, visit is covered by play.
Rebecca?
Yeah, yes, I was just going to say the exact same thing. When I am visiting and on holiday, I am playing, so it's sort of the same thing. But I was just going to say 2B. Can I just start the auction there?
So B, yeah.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Yeah, all right, let's go. All those in favour?
Who's that, Gary?
I'll do.
We've got a third.
It's very clear cut. It's very clear cut.
So at the moment, we're looking at number 2, Item B, the Coromandel live, work and play, keep it simple. I do appreciate Gary's making the suggestion. I think that's what the debate's all about. Can I show of hands, please, on B, the Coromandel live, work and play? Item B it is. Thank you. So we'll put the motion. All those in favour as a formal motion.
I,
Did I need a mover and a seconder specifically for that part of it?
no, I think we're doing two parts.
Do we?
Yeah, we have the report.
We're okay.
We are.
So let's do it properly. Item 2, can I get a mover and a seconder for that?
I'll move.
So Rebecca and John, all those in favour?
I,
Terry, thank you. Anyone against? No. Terry, thank you. Item 3, key priorities. So we've got A, B, and C, which we've already decided on. And then we've got D and E, we've got a choice there, sustainable services and infrastructure, or district with sustainable services and infrastructure. So it's just adding in the word. Just there.
I'm happy to move the suggestion of district of sustainable services and infrastructure.
I'll see that.
D seconded, discussion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Work's already been done on that, so it's nice. Okay, so Kate and Leslie, you staying with us for
Yeah.
item 2.3, thank you. So I'll get a mover and a seconder to receive the grouping of activities report, please. Delhi, seconder. Thank you. All those in favour? Okay. All those in favour? Aye.
are we having any discussions?
This is just to receive.
Oh, sorry. Oh, do we need a, okay.
Has a committee minutes.
Must have passed out.
Okay, all right, so now we're going to the rest 2, 3, and 4. How are we going to take it? One at a time.
And through the chair, as we're tackling, can we have the packet page number of what we're tackling each week?
That's a good idea. So we're starting on page 86. And in terms of the comprehensive report, refers to B, 90, page 90. So I'm going to move that the item 2, the group of activity structure, be approved. So I get a second of that. Thank you. Right, open for discussion. Item 2.
Item 2,
Yeah.
clarify item
87.
87.
Oh,
On page 87.
the resolutions on page 87.
That's it. Okay, so what we need to decide here is item 2 approves the group activity structure, and item 3 talks about the district funded in line with revenue and financing. So, Kate.
Thank you. Yeah, he's going to just remind the intent of the grouping of activities, and they are in our long-term plan. They are really critical to informing the development of our long-term plan budgets. They also, we include in the long-term plan the performance reporting framework. So we use that to organise and set out our levels of service, measures and targets. That one around the funding of the roading and footpaths activity in particular might be good if we could get some input from Donna. talk to us a little bit about that. We do have some, in the options discussion, there is some, considerations set out in the report.
Page 91.
Summary of the, the options there.
That's on page 91. Make sure we're all on the same page as well. So, we will ask, or if that's okay, because there are some complications here that I think the councils need to be aware of.
Yes.
In terms of these items here. I would assume
Around expenses. So through the chair, the first thing that you put in your mind is the structure of the review activities in that attachment B. It's quite a separate discussion from how things are funded. That will come in the third resolution, but the first order of business, I think, is that structure where we were proposing, as you know, we were renaming of several activity groups and groups.
So through the chair, therefore, can we actually look at page 94? Is that what we're referring to in discussion?
but we do, sorry, Aileen, but we do want to take these separately.
So just put it in colloquial terms, this is basically building the shape of the container. You're not deciding what goes in the container yet, that sort of comes down the track, but you're building, this is what the thing is going to look like, and it's an essential decision before we start to move forward.
So in terms of approving the group of activity structure, which is outlined from page 94 on, what we've got to decide is everyone's comfortable, and there's been quite a lot of work gone into this in terms of our workshop. In terms of
Does this include the names in 89? 89 page talks about the renaming of these things.
Yes.
So that's the first thing we're doing first?
Yes, that's
Right.
reflected in that.
Contain,
Yes, so it's not funding.
not funding,
Just
just the
names.
name.
The buckets that we're looking
So are we on 89 or 94? Which one are we at?
Well, 89 is the pre-C of what's in.
94, right.
94 describes the structure and I can say that.
I think a lot of work through the chair has gone into this, both staff, and we've had lots of discussion. And it has been read before this meeting. I have no problem whatsoever with the content of that table. Really, if you have read the report before, could have come back to staff or, you know, have that discussion earlier. So I'd like to just get past.
So just, thank you, Delly. So just in terms of the structure, I think Delly makes a good point. I'm aware that council want to have a discussion around the funding, but let's tick off the structure. So we just talked about structure. So I'm going to move that we approve the group of activity.
Through chair, you're ready to
You've already moved it, and I've seconded it.
All right, so we'll put that to the vote, please. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Okay, so that's carried. So now we're moving to item 3. Approves the footpaths, cycleways and street lights activity as been named by resolution to be district funded in line with revenue and financing policy. I would like to ask Donna, please, to just put this giving to the discussion.
Sure, through the chair. So we're going to talk about in line with the revenue and financing policy, the current revenue and financing policy for district roading is that there is a percentage that is funded by a targeted rate, which is the exact words, but it's a district transportation and building control targeted rate. There's a percentage that's funded by the general rate, and there's also a percentage that's funded by the UAGC. So through the development, this is for our current revenue and financing policy, but through the development of this long-term plan, we've already obviously looking at the revenue and financing policy and doing some work around that in the workshop to work out, you know, how we can, you know, what is the best way to fund some of these. We'll be looking at the whole funding of our activities to a level that we can still, you know, maintain within the funding regime, the rates funding regime that we currently have. So there will be a workshop further on that, but basically what we're proposing here is if the local roads and footpaths activity moves to district, it would just mirror what the current district funding for
district consultation all figures.
Thank you.
That makes sense.
And I'm aware that there's some number of comments about the efficiency, the admin, convenience, and the cost of delivering these, and how complicated it can be. So, discussion, Martin?
So, through the chair, would it be true to say that making it district, and might be a question for Bruce, is going to make it easier, particularly short term, with all the funding that we're getting around for local roads and things? Is that a fair comment to be able to control it centrally rather than through the community boards?
Yeah, so through the chair, I'd say it definitely is easier to manage the activity as a district activity rather than 5 local activities for funds. And the real challenge you have around those individual 5 budgets, the way they're done at the moment, is that they're relatively small, and it can be quite hard to actually improve much in any given year. So what happens is you end up with a board who's like trying to kind of somehow save up money to be able to actually go out and do anything. So when you actually do any construction, there's a number of establishment costs, mobilisation costs, and all those kind of things that go on every single project. So if you've got, if you've got consolidated budgets across the district, that enables you to deliver projects more efficiently and obviously work your way around priorities in that respect. So, so from my perspective, it makes total sense. It has been discussed before, and I think that it enables us to get better outcomes for our communities.
Thank you, Bruce. Peter?
Thanks. So I understand some of the challenges with making a change like this, but I would declare that I'm an absolute fan of seeing this move into district funding. However, I would not be able to support it unless this has been discussed with the community boards, because at the end of the day, they will have a strong view as to, they would need to understand how this would help or not help, et cetera, et cetera. And I think for us to make a call, especially given the fact we just voted that we're going to be a collaborative district, I think collaborative means that we should be talking to the community boards before we make a decision as council.
Section 56 and 82. Sorry, got that. Basically said you had to do that.
Sorry, Gary. So it's a good point. I'm going to stick to the order, otherwise.
No, sorry, I just.
So can I connect you on that? So John.
Well, that covered off a lot of the points that I was going to make. The main one that would concern me is, particularly with current sensitivities around the level of rate increases that we've had, would be try and understand what the implication would be for the various communities around the place. And I know it's but I think it's one that would be an obvious question that most would be asking. So, and if someone living in Opinto will be bearing a higher rate because this is now district rated than what it might be if it was kept under the current arrangements in regard to the splitting of the rate. So, you know, I absolutely support what Peter's saying. I'm also a great believer in simplification, so that's a conflicting view that I have with it. But I think consultation is really key, and just some level of understanding of what the implication of this will be. Now, I'm very sensitive to the fact that there's a number of communities that already have had their hands up for a number of years for things like footpaths and street lighting. And now we're going to be charging them for a rate for this for something they haven't got that they have been wanting. And we need to just really fully understand that before we step right in and move through it.
Thank you. Terry?
Yes, I've asked to talk to the community board as well, and they're very concerned about this. They say, well, you know, the council spends $300,000 on community boards, and are they losing their power? This is what's come back to me. They're concerned on what's left. They're concerned on how influence on projects locally. They're losing, we know we're losing 3 waters, and we know there's got to be some adjustment at the at this table, but they were concerned. They're also concerned that they've just set up parks and reserves committees to work with community boards, beach cares and harbour cares. So they're trying to get that engagement going now, and suddenly that's all feels like it's might disappear. And somebody mentioned to me that the aquatic pool was a parks and reserves project, so they're worried about that aquatic pool, if that becomes an issue. So these are just issues that they've been raised with me. So the loss of input and the local input signals that and they are concerned and would like to talk about.
Gary, did you want to?
I don't think we can process this until we get the community. I'll look again at sections, and I think it's until you do that.
So can I circle back to Donna, please, because there's some implications here, aren't there, for long-term plan and the work that's been done already. So can we, as councillors, can we get an understanding of how this ties in with the work that we've already done on LTC?
Yes, I can. Probably not the best one to explain that, but there's been a lot of work done, and the implication that I can see probably of not landing on a grouping or not landing on the date as part of the review of activities probably also relies on where roaming that the local rating is under, so that will put our timetable back quite substantially, which we don't have that luxury.
So would it be fair to say we'll just leave it as locally funded, being moved forward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to test it. Just like to test it, but like now, I hear what you're saying, I'm looking more comfortable with this being my community. I mean, at the end of the day, it makes total sense. The efficiencies to be gained by doing a kilometre of footpath at a time as opposed to 200 metres, that has to be an immense saving in itself. Those rural communities that have wanted footpaths for years, I've got to John and been asking for them, are highly unlikely to get footpaths they require anyway in those isolated communities, but they will still be paying footpaths in the larger close community. And those people will go into that things and they will use them footpaths, so they should be contributing across all those. I think, guys, we are at best a middle-sized council, and you didn't break this down, which we could go into kingdoms, a lot of financial clout, either we do or someone achieve so much more. I am advocating that it go district-wide. I would advocate that everything district-wide actually, so we actually really have some ability to do things that we want to. But this year is an opportunity to complete get the footpaths and what everyone in the district bring, and bring an equity to the entire district rather than just walk by the ward. So I think it's an opportunity to walk away from it today. We lose that opportunity, and I would really like to see with it. Going back to my original point that yes, I would like to have gone first and discussed it with them. I am reassured in this report from staff that community boards will still be setting their priorities in their local boards, what they want to be done. They are not being cut out of the equation. The building consultant have set their priorities and come through to council. Staff with a great overview of the entire district will be able to turn the wheelers for cars and curves. We want safety reasons, whatever councils.
Inside councillors.
And councillors, yeah. So hey guys, I don't want to miss this opportunity. I want to see us forward to a little bit of what I want, but I think it's an opportunity we should
Just through the chair, just want to reiterate one thing that you did say, Councillor Morrissey, and also in response to Councillor Grant, like the likes you gave the Peter Bay example, they are already paying their local works rate for footpaths and lights that they cannot have, because they will be paying the local works and services rate for Mercury Bay, so they're already paying. By making it district, I think they will be positive, although actually probably paying less.
Thank you, John.
It's covered by
So much better than what I was trying to, that's what I was going to say, so.
So if I may, I just want to pick up on a couple of the points that Terry raised, and I think they are relevant concerns, and they're concerns that are reflected in community discussions. But talking here about trying to get more efficiency and more equitable spread on cycleways and streetlights. So some of the items that you raised are not included in this. They should be part of the wider discussion as we go into our revenue and financing policy discussion next year. But at this stage, what I'm hearing from the team is that they're trying to achieve efficiencies and cost effectiveness in a small range of things that we can spread across the district. The other thing that I've noted, and maybe I'll get some from the team on this, the opportunities for outside funding, and we can talk about the subsidy on footpaths, for example. Are we better positioned to get outside funding if it's district-wide rather than local board based, or does it not make any difference?
So through the chair, my view on that is it probably doesn't make a huge amount of difference as it models it with what we're telling you at the moment. However, I think it does make a difference for other funding sources. So when other funds come up, I think you're in a much better position rather than, if you've got just one of these other external funding sources, government funding, you go and say, we just want to get this little package of a couple of 200 metres of footpath in this township. That doesn't really help you. That's not really attractive for those government funding sources. So if you've got a siloed picture across the district, I think you're in a much better position. That would be my key point on that one. Yeah.
Thank you. And as we continue these discussions on a national basis and a regional basis about funding for local government, this is coming up more and more that we have to have that outside funding, that government funding. And so we've got to be positioned to make sure that we are able to access that funding easily and effectively without getting tangled up in red tape. So John, Grant, and then yes.
So I just wanted to clarify one of the points that came up from the comments that you displayed, Donna. So if a Pito Bay, speaking on behalf of my dear friends in a Pito Bay, if their rate is likely to go down, whose rate goes up?
So I'll just jump in there. So I think what Don was referring to was those greater efficiencies that we talked about. So because you're spreading it across a number of different areas to get the same amount of works done, however many metres of footpath is going to be cheaper if you're consolidating and doing lesser number of bigger packages rather than doing a whole load of very small packages. So your establishment mobilisation cost, all that kind of stuff is going to be less if you spread it across the district.
Pricing benefit of consolidating this to the district rate.
Yeah.
Reduces the cost across the board. No one's rate goes up.
So we're really just talking, sorry.
That's a decision though, isn't it? Because the other side of it is the rate stays the same until more footpath.
Yeah, correct.
So it's a decision to be made.
Just like Three Waters, isn't it? Just bring it all together.
Aren't you with the slogan like that?
Yeah.
Given that on 15th of September 2020, the previous council passed a resolution to investigate this, and that was moved and seconded by Councillor Rodley and Councillor Sinclair. Could we please hear from you two about this matter?
Didn't get through, but we thought it was a great idea then, and we still think it's a great idea now.
I'm convinced by the argument that the economy of scale will be better for my ratepayers, so I'm really happy to support it as it is. It's the resolution is written on page 87.
Can I ask, does it concern you that the community boards have not been privy to this, have not been involved in the discussion to this point?
Yes, but in an ideal world, that would be nice. I'm convinced in the report that the voice of the community boards won't be lost in the local decision making.
what she said. It's mentioned several times in this about, and I get what he said about we do have to listen to community boards and act on what they want. However, this is just deciding how it's funded. We will still be listening to community boards about what projects they consider are important. And as in the past, we will agree with some of the projects that they think are important, and we will have to park other ones that can't be done. I don't think there's suddenly going to be a whole lot less footpaths done than before. I'm comfortable with the level that community board will still have in it.
Because the other thing that I'm really mindful of is that I spent 4 days at a conference with my peers in Christchurch, and one of the things that came up again and again and again is that local government needs to be more aspirational, what we do, less about footpaths and poles and that kind of thing. And so, you know, part of me has come back thinking, well, actually, how detailed operational are we doing, and how appropriate is that to what I'm doing to serve my community, where I could be, rather than spending time as a community board member deciding what streetlights get replaced. Would it be better for me to have a bigger aspiration for my community that I can work towards to improve to everybody, rather than one person who's going to be affected by one streetlight? So that's also where I'm thinking in terms of, if this streamlines the process, if it makes it much easier, if this makes the economies of scale, then that's my job and my time better spent.
So I'll go to Gary, and then a couple of points that I've picked up in the discussion. So Gary.
See, one of the things that concerns me is there any evidence to show that option 2, which is on page 91, is economically any more efficient? Because it appears to me on the face of it, it's going to require further staffing resources, and we've got an estimate of what those costs are. Seems fairly necessary to know that. But it just seems to be disenfranchising community boards. When we are elected as councillors, we're elected for the district. Community boards are elected for the ward. Now, I'm still uncomfortable that I'm on a community board. But the reality is, it seems to me that we are just ignoring them by doing this. If we cannot involve them in this and have their support, there's no way I'm going to vote for this.
Thank you, Gary. Rika?
I mean, the sentiment of what I'm going to say has been sort of expressed by a couple of different people around the table. We had a resolution passed, when was this? 2020, and then the paper talks about the limited time frame to do some consultation with our community boards. I would have thought from passing that resolution in 2020 to now, we would have found some time to get in front of the community boards and have these conversations. And yeah, I find it really difficult to support this without sort of some broader consultation. And I would have liked to have seen some modelling to actually really understand what the impact rate-wise would mean.
So can I just clarify what I'm hearing? And what I'm hearing is that there are concerns about the loss of decision-making powers at community level for priorities, and about what the focus should be at local community level. So I'd like to try and separate that out from the funding discussion, which is really what this is all about. So losing the ability for community boards to make locally based decisions is the primary concern. Funding of that on a district-wide basis. Sorry, have I got that?
No, I think that wrongly. I don't think that we are removing, there's any concern about removing the community board's ability to have input their projects. That still remains in some paper. What the council seems to be concerned about is the fact that they weren't solved at all. So I think the paper still leaves the ability for community boards to have input into their local parts where they want and what have you. That's in here. But we're going back a step before that, the fact that they weren't talked to at all, and give the opportunity to have any input. I've heard
about the switch from local funding to district.
Yeah, they were given the opportunity, but they're still going to be able to set their priorities. That's in the paper. There is one thing, and it's a little bit removed from that, and that was Gary said before, that unless Mandarin came to the community board and fully discussed and had their endorsement, he would not support it at this table. I think that's wrong. I think it's important that we listen to our community boards, but when we're at this table, we make a decision that is in the interest of the district, and it's quite distinctive, carrying forward the community board's wishes sometimes. And it can put your councillor offside with the community board, but what the community board wants may not always be what's best for the district. So, yeah, don't get tied down the community board's decision, because it may not be the best decision for the district. And this is definitely, this funding going district-wide is definitely the best thing for the district.
Thank you. So I've got, Peter, did you have something?
I just wanted to clarify that I don't think the issue is the issue of consultation from my point of view.
Consultation. Thank you. Jerry?
Yeah, I disagree with what Councillor Morris is saying. I think the community boards are concerned about their ability to have influence over projects. I know now that the capital works program comes, we have very little influence. We have about 20% influence in the capital works program now. So community boards will lose that if it goes district. So how will they be able to make their voice heard? They're asking these reserve committees to make plans on they know the reserves right out and back to front. They know their trails.
The point was just on the chair, I think you're actually correct. Community boards will not lose the ability to have input.
They will, John. I know that. When it goes district, it won't be a work program for discussion. It'll be a district decision. And you know, and I'm not worried about footpaths. That is something that most probably could go district, because they are something that when we ask for a piece of footpath, it goes to roadie. They make a decision on when it's going to be done, how much it's going to cost, and when it's going to happen. That's fine. But reserves and parks and reserves are precious to communities. They want to know what's going on them. They're writing plans about them. And they're doing it. So I'm just making it clear that is a real concern that they've got.
Okay, so at the moment, it looks like, and I'm wondering whether only you earlier on made a suggestion that whether we go back to status quo, which was locally funded, and move this to the revenue and financing policy discussion. What I'm concerned about is the implications for our LTP and unpicking some of the progress that's gone there and where that leads us at the council.
So I guess from a staff perspective, this isn't our issue. This is for the council to decide. And what we've done is brought forward a report that reflected what happened in the workshop. So this is your call. The challenge for us is that we need this as a building block to proceed further down the LTP path. So if the recommendation fails today, then we're back to status quo, and we carry on with the LTP on status quo basis. And there isn't really an opportunity to revisit this later on down the track because of the order of decision making that needs to be made.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, your call, your decision, and we'll proceed either route.
John.
I'd like to test the water. I move resolution 1, 2, and 3 in its entirety. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Right. So we'll test this. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? So the motion is very high.
Yeah,
So get back to Councillor Walker's comments, because a moment ago you were talking about reserves and losing power of reserves, but resolution 3 doesn't mention reserves at all. So when you were voting about resolution 3, approves the footpath, cycleways and streetlights activity, etc. Were you talking about reserves just then and voting no because you thought the reserves were being moved in, or are you?
I understand the parks and reserves are up for consideration.
But they're not in that resolution.
Not part of this resolution. Footpaths, cycleways, and streetlights.
Yeah, streetlights.
Okay, so can we do the vote again now that?
No. I'm just stating you what I get feedback from.
Okay.
So at the moment, we don't have enough support around the council table for this to move forward based on the discussion that we've had. So,
What do we do? Remove items 3 and 4 from the resolution? No?
No, we were.
Through the chair, it's like resolution 4 remains, we're looking for confirmation of the funding for the other activities remains the same.
Yeah.
So apart from that identified in resolution 3. So the proposed funding for the group of activities.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'll move that.
That resolution 4 now confirms proposed activity, proposed funding for the group of activities, full stop remains the same. Could I suggest we delete number 3?
Yeah.
It just confirms the proposed funding for the group of activities remains the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
all right, so
3 and part of 2.
Yeah.
4. Okay.
so we're going to remove 3 and we're going to, can I get a move in a second do for 4, please?
2020?
Yep.
Terry and Delly, all those in favour?
Aye.
3 is negative.
One against?
Sorry.
I don't know if there's anybody against.
Just you.
It's me.
Both of them. 2. Very good. You need to formalize 3.
Disappointing.
You didn't pass this? What process?
That we didn't pass this. Well, it's this, it's going to, this is so good. This, if you're going to be.
So guys, we're just going to revisit because we've got to change some of the wording to refer item 4 back to item 2. Because there's some changes there, so we'll just get that wording right, please.
It's fine, yeah, cool, thank you.
To Donna and make sure we get the wording right. Put that up on the screen, make sure that everyone's clear on that. Just to get our process right, we will want to put that resolution again based on the revised version. And while we're doing that, I'm going to pick up on a couple of things that I should have done earlier. First of all, parliamentary resolution 5 was put into the agenda out of cycle, and that was due to a lot of hard work on Ari's part. So I'd just like to thank Ari for that. For moving goals.
Thank you, Chair, but that was my side, so back to that. So that inclusion,
Thank you, Ari and advisors. The other thing is that where's Kate gone? She's sitting over here. Kate finishes at the end of next week.
Oh.
And I think she might not have the appetite for another reason.
Yeah.
You're distracting.
Very good.
We're going to miss you, Kate.
Oh, we're going to miss it.
Hence, the prefect will remain on
We can get rid of you.
the
You don't count.
Only a cup of cold soup.
So we'll just get the this right, then we're going to procedural matters on 3 to 7.
There was a question regarding the license, and everything else is this morning, which we haven't read. Things that you need time to agree.
I have a brief minute. So I don't.
Right.
I said no. We trust Brian? Right. Yes. Brian said yes.
There it is. But when we 3 years time.
Oh, that's-
Is that- is that one that's- the 8 councillors?
Hey, I'm happy to give up one of mine. Not me, but someone can go now.
Having one tea.
Yes, we've just got to get this right up there. We've got second motion on camping and
Remains unchanged.
okay, so we're going to go back to item 3. In terms of the proposed funding of activities remains unchanged. So mover and a second, please, for
Through the chair, we
what I
already
think
had.
we've done there.
Yeah.
So we deleted item 3.
No.
So through the
Well,
chair.
it's got to cover it.
Three. Yeah. Yeah.
Do we need to refer to the changed structure that we put in place?
Got the name is out the top's changing, the names. In one.
Well, we've already got a new resolution because we voted against and now it's all switching back. We're going to support. Everyone. So no.
I know it's struggling easily.
So we've approved the group activity structure, included in the policy, we've done that.
Two,
Do we have a vote on that?
yeah, we did.
Through
Yep.
the chair, we've done 1 and 2.
Yeah,
We're looking at 3.
3 only.
Staff had just recommended a slight change to make sure that it fit. We had a mover and a seconder. It was also voted against, councillor Sinclair, councillor Rodley. So we just need you to see those small tweaks that staff have recommended.
That's all done.
Yeah, that's done.
All done.
Very good.
Done deal.
Okay. All right, so we move on and we've got one more item, which is, as I said, a procedural item on freedom of camping bylaw. Is there anyone speaking to this? Yeah. Leslie? All right. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please, to receive this? Yep. Gary and. All those in favour to receive? Aye. Thank you. Okay. John and Leslie, can you just give us a bit of an overview, please, of most councillors have read the report?
Yeah, I think the report is read. This report is seeking approval for changes to the Freedom Camping Bylaw to reflect the amendments to the Freedom Camping Act that came into force under the Self-Contained Motor Vehicles Legislation Act. And so they are basically quite technical changes.
Changes you're going to make.
Yeah, and thank you because I've received it. I've read the Brookfield letters and I just wanted to check one aspect of it. I was still unsatisfied.
So this procedural motion keeps us compliant. I'll put the motion. Can I get a mover and a second, please, for item 2? John and Martin, all those in favour?
Aye.
Can I just add something? I've discussed with Brian. Section 6 is amended by section 5 subsection 2. A person is not freedom camping if A, under this is a visa, previous to 1, is unable to live in appropriate accommodation, and C, as a consequence of that inability of living in either or failure to following a tent or other temporary structure, a motor vehicle. Now that, I just don't know how the council's going to deal with all this. It's very tough on councils. And then that's what I myself am talking about. And I just think we need to be aware of it because it's open slalom.
Thank you. So that's, it doesn't address this, so it's a comment.
It's the same time. The act second, it's being made, there's other things that.
Thank you, Gary. All right. We're going to have morning tea. And thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Leslie.
So mine was very good at explaining how People have issues.